Welcome. Today I will be presenting our paper focusing on an ego-centric wearable sensor system. And we did this via the artifact called SensorBadge. But to give you the full ID, scope and title of the paper, we focused on an exploratory study of an ego-centric wearable sensor system for healthy office environments. But let me start by introducing myself. My name is Hans Brommacher. I'm a PhD candidate at the Department of Industrial Design at the Eindhoven University of Technology, and I will present this paper also on behalf of Steven Haube and Steven Vos. When we look at the current systems that we are collecting sensor data about in the office environment, we mostly see stationary systems, which are often used to optimize energy consumption or to measure our work activities. And these systems measure all kinds of contextual factors, including the temperature, humidity, as well as the light level in the office. However, these systems are a bit of a black box, and I mean the general office worker, are not really considered and are more seen as passive data subjects. And we don't have any insights or input on the sensing and the data collection, and therefore it doesn't really bring us a lot of valuable information which we could use to improve our way of working. This was also the challenge that we set for ourselves within this paper. So instead of the stationary black box systems, we should collect data that provides personal value to the user, placing the user in the center of the data collection, and where the user can also manipulate, analyze and make sense of the data. To place it in the challenge, how can we make these data streams and collections visible and include the office worker within the loop? And to study this, we developed SensorBadge. SensorBadge is a wearable, ego-centric and multi-source sensing system that measures different parameters in the office environment. SensorBadge gives employees the insights and information which is normally hidden in these black box and stationary system, and instead we take a human data interaction approach where office workers can opt in using an ego-centric sensor platform. And the artifact of SensorBadge is developed on 5 principles which I go through now. At first, the data itself. SensorBadge collects data about the person, so the amount of steps they take, as well as their environment, their light level, temperature, humidity and sound. And these office data are collected and shown to them to see how they can be used to improve their productivity and overall office well-being. Then the design. SensorBadge takes a wearable approach in the form of a badge holder. This is an item already often used in the office to reserve rooms, open doors or get coffee. And it can also be easily worn on the body via either belt clip or key cord, and therefore doesn't bring any additional burden where people have to bring it with them throughout the day. Next to the wearable aspects of the design, it also has a hybrid design. What we mean with that is what we see now, post-COVID, that more and more people are working also from home, so have a home office and their actual office. And the stationary systems, as mentioned before, we can bring those with us to our home office. SensorBadge can easily be brought with people to their home office and therefore also provide insights about their environment from their home office itself. Then the privacy, again reflecting to the mentioned stationary systems in the office, we don't really have a choice as office worker if and what kind of data is collected from us. We can't opt in, and we don't really have an understanding and insights on the data that is collected and what this means for us. SensorBadge provides individuals with this option. People can choose themselves if and when the data is collected, and always have the option to turn it off, and always have the insights of the data that is collected within the badge. At last, there's the social visibility. As I mentioned before, SensorBadge is a wearable designed for people wear on their body. And therefore it creates a social visibility which potentially could create social feedback where people can actually talk and provide feedback to each other, where the topic of office vitality as well as office well-being can be more of talk within the office. Then, to evaluate these wearable sensor systems, we conducted a study. This study focused on 4 aspects, namely the wearability, use, on-body location, and data collection. And this was done in 3 different settings, where people were using the SensorBadge either via a keycord, on a belt clip, or using it as a handheld object. All 3 positions was experienced for 4 periods of 1 hour, with a total time of 12 hours, which was spread out over 2 days. And throughout the study, several data points were collected. At first, the data from the sensors in the SensorBadge themselves, and secondly, hourly experience sampling about the experience with SensorBadge, as well as their work setting, to get more contextual information about their current work activities and current work setting. So due to the time, I won't go as much into the results, but for the details, I would like to refer to the paper itself, and now I will go more into depth in the discussion and the point for future research. So, when we look at the form, these kinds of wearable sensor systems should fit seamlessly within the daily work routine of office workers and not ask extra effort in terms of wearability or be a burden. Also, people should be able to change the way people are wearing the badge based on their clothing, work preferences, requirements, and work style, and should be at any time free to change these positions depending on what is needed for that situation. Then the data itself. During the study, as can also be seen in the previously mentioned data dashboards, data was presented in either graphs or numbers, and the less experienced, more novice users had some problems understanding this data. Steps and temperature in general were understood. However, things like lux for the light and decibel for the sound were quite hard to understand, and therefore data need to be classified and presented in an understandable way for these kind of non-expert novice users to still provide them with insights about their office environment. Then, going from the data to action. What we saw during the study is that when data was presented and individuals were not able to put this into action, there were some conflicts when that happened. An example of this was when SensorBadge provided feedback that the temperature in the room was too high. However, at that moment, that participants couldn't open any windows because there were no possibilities. They were not able to open any doors, and this was quite a bit of an irritation because data was provided and they couldn't do anything with it. And therefore, office workers should have possibility to change their physical work environment to improve their health and well-being. Comparing SensorBadge to in the introduction mentioned stationary place-centric designs, the ego-centric approach in SensorBadge provides individuals with the possibility to bring a hybrid wearable sensor system with them throughout the day, and due to the human data interaction approach, the user is always in the center of the data collection, providing information that is potentially valuable to them instead of the systems that are mostly now implemented in the office. Then the data itself. As an additional data source, participants indicated that data such as productivity and stress could be nice to have as additional data. And then the environmental data, they would like to have that related to the productivity and the stress to see if and how their environment is influencing these factors and how they could potentially improve their productivity and create less stress by changing their environment. And secondly, what we saw is that this was a bit of a limitation of future work, is that the experience data was not always similar to the collected data. An example of this was seen where participants saw spikes in the data of the sounds, and where we thought it was just a noisy room, but instead it was the badge colliding against the table. And this is something that needs to be taken into consideration into the future, where the experience data is also compared with actual measured data. Then the limitation and future directions of this study. So as mentioned, SensorBadge has a hybrid approach for both the home office as the actual office. However, only 2 participants experienced SensorBadge in the home office for 1 day. And to get a better understanding about the role of these systems, a future study more extensive study needs to be done to really understand the effect of these kinds of hybrid wearable sensor systems in the home office. Second, what we saw, as I mentioned before, there were some flaws in the current setup and placement of the sensors, and therefore in the future development of the new SensorBadge, all sensors need to be placed in a similar location to have an optimal a collection of data, and also this should be evaluated in a longer, more extensive study. And then, to come to a conclusion and the key giveaways of this paper, when designing wearable sensor systems such as SensorBadge, these artifacts should fit seamlessly in the office routine of individuals and not causing extra burdens or irritation. Data should be classified and presented to individuals in an understandable way and move away from the graphs and numbers that we generally see right now. When data is presented, individuals should be able to put this data into action, and with this, individuals should have a personal control of their office environment to see how they can improve their overall office for a better office well-being. Thank you for listening.